So first of all, welcome to everyone here today, both in person here in Cairo and online. And a particularly warm welcome to Dr. Wala Shetta and our keynotes who are here somewhere, and to all of our speakers and our sponsors and the 900 of you who were kind enough to register and join us online. To introduce myself, I'm Dr. Emily Choynowski. I am the head of publishing at Knowledge and the organizer for this event today. A couple of housekeeping events. If someone could skip to the next slide for me, if it's may or may not work, yet another technical issue. So just a very brief one. This is a hybrid event. So although there will be people in person, most of the events will be in person either in this room or in the room next door, but they will be live streamed to our audience across the world. We will also have 3 online only panels that will be streamed from across the world into the room next door. On the doors of the 2 meeting rooms is a list of what events are happening where, and also another set of documents is on the registration desk. So do ask the people on the desk or any of our staff, and they'll be able to tell you where to go to listen to specific things. As I mentioned, we'll be splitting into 2 rooms and everything's around there. There are a few last minute cancellations and some rejigging of the program. A number of our speakers have been unable to join us in person, so we will be playing recordings. Hopefully it will go well, but I hope you will forgive us if there are a few technical difficulties there as well. Also, we've had to move some of the program around a bit to introduce some additional speakers because there were some family emergencies from some of the speakers cancelling. The slide's gone again. Briefly, 1 minute ago, we saw a slide that had, there we go. So we've got 2 things here. We've got a discussion forum, which we've set up. It's on our website. You can use the QR code to access it. The QR code's also in the brochure, and you can access it just generally online. If you have any questions about the event or are inspired to ask questions, do enter them on the discussion forum. That is why we're here. Collaboration and friendly discussion. And also, if you have questions, unfortunately, today and tomorrow, so do put them on the discussion forum, and we and all our speakers and everyone will try and answer them and make sure that you have everything you need. Also, we do, sorry, this is a very sensitive clicker. Social media, if you are kind enough to post about this event and hopefully say that you're enjoying it, please do use the hashtag #FORM4Open. If you're on Twitter, this is our Twitter account, but any social media account you're on, do use that, and we'll make sure to pick it up and share it widely. Again, that's why we're here, to share the ideas, because ultimately, whether in person or online, we're here to exchange ideas and inspiration and experiences relating to the role, impact, and implementation of open science in higher education. All our speakers are brilliant. Welcome to all of you. We're very thrilled to have 50 speakers of such high caliber, and special mentions must go to our 2 keynotes, and also to the special panelists from UNESCO, Dr. Ezra Clark, Dr. Yusuf Torman, and Dr. Nazar Hassan. This is the first forum, forgive me, I will be brief, I promise. This is the first forum for open research in MENA. However, we really do hope that this will become an annual event. And I hope you're all excited to join us today and exchange ideas about the challenges and solutions to opening open science, to implementing open science policies and practices in research communities across this region. And I really hope, everything's going wrong today. I really hope you will find it very useful. And thank you for working with us towards a more knowledgeable world and towards a more open MENA. I will now hand over to my boss, Cameron Cardan, who will give a talk. Oh, brilliant, there's stairs as well.
Thank you, Emily. Sabah al khair, good morning and welcome. Ahlan wa sahlan. I'm really happy to be here. It's a real pleasure. I know that Emily has been working day and night for the past few months and has been breathing for, I could say, in a way, in order to get this event in place and here today. I'll not be talking for long, just a brief introduction. My name is Cameron Cardan. I'm the CEO of Knowledge. The event is brought to you by Knowledge Foundation, which is a community interest group company based in the UK, and with the aim of improving inclusivity and expanding and supporting research and education for everyone and everywhere. Of course, the organizers, we've had the support of Gulf Conferences and all the staff from Knowledge, our host partner, the Egyptian Knowledge Bank, big thanks, and our advisory, UNESCO, and our patron, ALECSO. Thank you for making this happen. We've had, of course, the support of all our partners and providers, and in order to allow for this event to happen, from our sponsors. In order to kickstart the day, it's my pleasure to give you Professor Dr. Wala Sheta, the President of SCDF, who will be welcoming you on as the host partner of this event. Please give a big round of applause for Dr. Wala. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Kamran, for your kind introduction. Our esteemed professors and colleagues in attendance today, we welcome you all and thank you for joining us in this inaugural forum for open research. I would like to add my appreciation also to our many partners in this event for their sponsorship, advisory, and organization. We are living in a world where access trumps knowledge every time. Those who know how to search, find, and make the connections will succeed. Those who rely static knowledge and the skills will fail. This statement was once given by a Canadian writer named Charles Jenkins. I believe these words are particularly relevant as we meet today to support the advancement of open research across the region. By definition, open research embraces transparency throughout research cycle, from collaborative working and sharing to making research methodology, software, code, equipments available along with instructions for using it. Open research includes making publication freely available, open access, in addition to underlying research data or open data. Our research helps to ensure that all researchers, stakeholders have access to the information regardless their location and economic situation. It means that the research process can be accelerated and new knowledge can be more quickly generated to help solve major challenges that we face in a society. Moreover, open research offers the potential for a strong return of investment from research funded by public money and may contribute to the better economic growth. As many benefits can be seen, the open science movement doesn't come without challenges. There are many difficulties, including technology, political, organizational, economical, and legal considerations. Through this forum together, we will continue to explore the address these complex issues. I am here today representing the Egyptian Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research, where we serve states' efforts to provide high-quality higher education and support the advancement of science, innovation, and human capital across the nation. In alignment with our Vision 2030, the ministry have numerous initiatives that support aspiration of Egyptians and embodiment of the new constitution's spirit, setting welfare and prosperity as the main economic objectives. Our efforts spans across private and public universities, research centers, research hospitals, and university hospitals, funding for science, technology, and innovation, which together benefit millions of Egyptian citizens. In this year, Egypt advances 19 positions in the Global Knowledge Index, in addition to more than 42,000 research articles published, with more than 50% of them in open access and high-quality journals. On multiple occasions, I have asked, why does Egypt produce so many good research output? I can give many answers for this, but the number one point that comes to the top of my mind is our talented, high-quality researchers and the enabling environment that we created for them. We leverage strength in collaboration with global organizations such as those participating in this event, and we cooperate with valued national partners such as Egyptian Knowledge Bank, which providing access to one of the world's most robust online libraries, facilitating advanced training projects, and sharing learning resources and tools. Around the globe, the scientific legacy of Egypt is well known, from our contribution in ancient times to the entrepreneurship and innovation seen today. There is no doubt that as a people, we maintain a commitment in inquiry, discovery, and advancement. But moreover, we are committed to collaboration and transparency in the betterment of us all across the community and abroad. And so along these lines, it's easy to see that the topic of open research is near and dear to us. And we are delighted to host this special event in Cairo. I hope that this occasion will act as a tangible step to broaden awareness, build capacity, and strengthen implementation of the open research across the region. I thank you again for your time, and I wish you all productive and rewarding forum. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Wala, for this insightful welcome speech. Next, we have Professor Amr Izzat Salama from the Association of Arab Universities, who couldn't join us, unfortunately, on this day, but we have a message from him.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, distinguished guests, dear colleagues, good morning. I am pleased and highly privileged to be invited as a speaker to this forum. I would like to take this opportunity to express my thanks to the organizers of the forum, the Knowledge E Foundation, Knowledge E and Gulf Conferences, UNESCO, Host Partner EKB, and ALECSO, who are assisting our countries and universities in our region and across the world to achieve higher education excellence and global recognition. Science has undoubtedly made our lives better. Science has delivered significant improvements in well-being, approaches that have helped to feed the world and, in many areas, led to improved environmental quality. It has delivered us the digital age, and developing of COVID-19 vaccines in record time was one of the greatest recent examples of the power of science. Open science based on freely sharing knowledge and data, making them publicly available and accessible to all, has been fundamental in making these advances possible. About 70% of scientific publications are behind paywalls. So the question I ask is whether paywalls are blocking scientific progress. Academia and the national science academies have a huge role to play here by promoting open science, by performing publishing, by greater collaboration across disciplines and communities. Today, scientific research is seen as an integral part of our approach to addressing global challenges related to climate, environment, health, energy, and food production. Research conducted at universities is today increasingly seen by politicians as a national resource, but it is in practice a global project. Ladies and gentlemen, there are about 1,300 public and private higher education institutes in the Arab world, with an enrollment of 14 million students out of 235 million worldwide, and about 485,000 academic staff. Less than 30% of those students are enrolled in science and technology, engineering and mathematics fields. There are also dozens of foreign universities or branches of those foreign universities, especially in in some of the Arab countries, Gulf countries, and in Egypt. There are over 6 million higher education students study outside their countries. About 543,000 of them are from the Arab countries, which also hosts over 135,000 international students. Arab countries spend less than 1% of the total national income on scientific research, while it reaches 4% in the developed countries. The private sector contributes only 33% of the total funding in the Arab countries, while it ranges between 52% to 70% in the developed countries. In some countries, like Japan, it reaches 80%. The average of researchers per million inhabitants in the Arab countries is 639, whereas the global average is 1,243. The ratio of Arab scientific publication to international scientific publication is only 1.3%. Throughout our Arab countries, over 65% of all research output is produced by universities. In addition to low funding, there are many barriers to open science in MENA region, such as the lack of awareness about open access and its benefits. Many researchers believe that open access is a predatory movement designed to steal money and research, and that open access content is inherently low quality, bias against open access research, encouraging a persistent devaluing of open access publications, even in institutions that are officially pro-open access, and the absence of official legislation supporting free access and open research in the Arab countries. Ladies and gentlemen, science alone cannot solve the many political, security, and economic problems that Arab countries face today. However, science diplomacy has an important role to play in addressing the health, environmental, energy, water, and food challenges that contribute to regional instability. These are shared problems that transcend national borders, and solving them will require collaboration. In turn, encouraging scientific collaboration among Arab countries can strengthen their diplomatic ties and build a base of scientific expertise and resources, enabling the incorporation of science into regional decision-making to address these shared problems. Projects such as SESAME, Synchrotron, Light for Experimental Science and Applications in the Middle East, and the Inter-Academy Partnership, IAP, are examples of science diplomacy involving the region. While these projects are encouraging, they are the exception and not the role of Arab countries. Building an Arab open science platform similar to the European Open Science Cloud is very important in this regard. The Association of Arab Universities, the platform of Arab universities and the higher education stakeholders for the region, seeks to advance higher education in the Arab world, especially in the field of research, scientific publishing, digital transformation, capacity building, quality assurance, and enhancing student learning. Based on its strategic plan for the period 2019-2030, the association developed and is developing practical solutions to many of these challenges through its scientific and research projects and programs. Finally, if we want to advance open science and address the challenges we face and achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, we need to increase funding for research 2% and create more connections and points of dialogue between governments, universities, industry, intergovernmental organizations, the private sector, and civil society. Thank you very much.
It gives me a great pleasure to invite our next keynote. The keynote from UNESCO, titled Open Science in Arab Region, Opportunities and Challenges. was to be given by Mr. Abdulaziz Al-Muzaini, the Regional Director, UNESCO Regional Bureau for Science in the Arab States. But unfortunately, he could not make it. And the talk will be given by Dr. Nazar. Please give Dr. Nazar a warm welcome to start this keynote today.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Good morning, everybody. Actually, there is a story to Dr. Abdulaziz Muzaini's absence. He was actually transferred from the office as the director, and we were blessed that our Director General Kana selected Dr. Nuria Sanz to come and lead the office. We're eager to actually have her in the office. Unfortunately, she started on the 20th, and we're hoping that she will make it to the forum. Unfortunately, for administrative issues like getting visas and stuff like that, the delay happened, and she's arriving on Friday. So we invite you all to our office on Sunday, and it's in 6th of October, by the way, to actually greet her if you have anything promising in terms of collaboration with UNESCO. Without any further ado, she actually gratefully asked me to give the presentation on her behalf. Now, of course, with consultation, she asked me, what is it that we are supposed to talk about? And I said, the importance of open science as a movement to the Arab region. I don't want to, you know, I get usually carried away and talk before my slides because the Arab region is close to my heart, but I'll try to kind of hold my horses. The nature of science is changing from a closed system to an open and sharing one. It affects virtually all components of doing science and research. And, you know, sometimes you'll find me moving away from the text of the speech and give some highlights. We need to understand that science and research are two different things, okay? And we need also to know that when you talk about open science, it is an umbrella for a lot of what we know today, talking about data, talking about open access, and so forth. So open science is really an umbrella, as has been defined by the UNESCO recommendation on open science. It affects virtually all components of doing science and research, and shifting in particular the focus from publishing as fast as possible to sharing knowledge as early as possible. The more you share, the more there is collaboration, the more your learning curve goes up exponentially, because a lot of people have mistrust. Oh, I'm gonna give my data, I'm gonna give my ideas. No, there are certain enablers to kind of protect the researcher, and we definitely need to have them there. But sharing is very important. Open science should be perceived as a scholarly research that is collaborative, transparent, reproducible, and whose outputs are publicly available. It aims at improving the quality of research, boost collaboration, speed up the research process. And we need to understand that each word of these that has been put in the UNESCO recommendation came from people who actually experienced open science. The movement of open science, you know, in developed countries came a few years back, and people needed this movement. People needed this movement because there were gaps and deficiencies. And for example, one of the ideas of Horizon 2020, if you know from the EU, is to actually bring in researchers from other regions to actually help them with their research ideas. Anyways, it's also aims at speeding up the research process, assessment of research more transparent, involve more people in research through co-design and transdisciplinary research, promote public access to scientific results while introducing more people to academic research. This is the opinion of the European Open Science platform. So Open Science brings about socio-cultural and technological change based on openness and connectivity, on how research is designed, performed, captured, and assessed. We all have to recognize the urgency of addressing complex and interconnected environmental, social, and economic challenges for the people and the planet, such as poverty, health issues, access to education, rising inequalities and disparities of opportunity, loss of biodiversity, land degradation, climate change, natural and human-made disasters, spiraling conflict, and related humanitarian crisis. You see, the list of what is needed to be tackled is huge. So the number of researchers can be exponentially increased through open science. Noting that the global COVID-19 health crisis has proven worldwide the urgency of access to scientific information, sharing of scientific knowledge, data and information, enhancing scientific collaboration and science and knowledge-based decision-making to respond to global emergencies and increase the resilience of societies. And this is some of the good reasons why why open science is very important for developing countries, including the Arab region. By encouraging science to be more connected to societal needs and by promoting equal opportunities for all. We here by all, we mean scientists, innovators, policymakers, and citizens, to mention a few. Open science can be a true game changer in fulfilling the human right to science and bridging the science, technology, and innovation gaps between and within countries. Driven by the unprecedented advances in our digital world, the transition to open science is a huge opportunity as it allows scientific information, data, and outputs to be more widely accessible, open access, and more reliably harnessed open data with the active engagement of all relevant stakeholders. Okay, some of the highlights of the recommendation, and this part actually takes you briefly through the UNESCO recommendations that we kind of see the importance of what it brings to the Arab region. It spells out consensus, core values. You have collective benefits, equity and fairness, quality and integrity, diversity and inclusiveness. And by actually focusing on the core values, the recommendation is trying to move away from the level of mistrust that researchers have on open science. And of course, guiding principles of open science, transparency, scrutiny, critique, and variability. It actually improves the research quality by making sure that researchers don't fool around with their data and results and stuff like that. Equal opportunities and access, respect, responsibility, and accountability, collaboration, participation, and inclusion, flexibility, and sustainability. It also addresses multiple actors and stakeholders, It's from 1 to 11, I think, to name a few: researchers, leaders, educators, information scientists, software developers, coders, creatives, innovators, engineers, legal scholars, legislators, magistrates and civil servants, publishers, editors, and leaders of professional societies and technical staff, researcher funders, policymakers, societal actors and communities, users, and the public at large. You see that everybody benefits from open science. Now, the recommendation actually focuses on 7 main areas for action. For example, promoting, the first one is promoting a common understanding of open science and promoting diverse paths to open science. Now, this is important because to be able to work with peers and colleagues from other institutions or from other countries or from other regions, you need to understand, to have a common understanding of what open science is. So under that, you need to encourage open science practice within publicly funded research practices. And when we talk about the Arab region, that is a place actually to stop, because publicly funded research is dwindling or is not really there. Some countries have actually succeeded in putting some money, but we need to actually visit that in terms of governments. Incorporating open science into national science, technology, and innovation policies and strategies and other national and regional policy frameworks for the public advancement of science. That is very important. Ensuring that the need and rights of communities, including the rights of indigenous peoples over their traditional knowledge, as expressed in the 2007 United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, should not be infringed in open science practices. And that is part of the remedies to mistrust. Now, engaging the private sector in the discussion about the ways in which the scope of open science principles and priorities can be enlarged and mutually shared. I need to switch it. Oh, okay. Maybe our great people over there, can you actually manage this when I move to the next slide? You can just actually move it instead of me forgetting it. Thank you. Yeah, support is good. We talk about collaboration. We need to have a collaboration here. Okay, it recommends also developing an enabling policy environment for open science. Okay, and I'm going to leave this because after the break, our colleague from headquarters, Ezra Clark, is going to give a talk on policies that are required to actually move open science forward. Investing in open science infrastructure, again, it's in red. That means that you will have our friend, Dr. Yusuf Torman from ASRIN. He will be giving a talk on that. But I want also to highlight 2 things that are very vital to the Arab region. Okay, first of all, national science, technology, and innovation systems, at least they need a 1% of GDP as gross expenditure. And that is not happening. If people know history, in the Arab region in 1972, in the League of Arab States, heads of states approved the 1% on GDP. Ask yourself today, how many of the Arab countries spend 1% on research? So we need to actually look at that. Open science will not fly by itself because it's a new movement. There are certain things that need to be put in place. And the second piece, which is very important, is to have reliable internet connectivity, because yes, usually in certain countries, of course, in certain countries, the speed of internet is superb. There is no problem, and the infrastructure is good. But what about the other side of the Arab states? In certain areas, it's only, of course, handled by private sector, and it's terribly expensive. So maybe even schools and universities have very low speeds of internet for researchers. So that needs to be tackled, and hopefully Dr. Yusuf would tell us how to tackle that. Investing in capacity building for open science, that's my second talk, so stay tuned. And transforming science culture and aligning incentives for open science. And by saying that, we mean combining efforts of many different actors, including research funders, universities, journals, and scientific societies across disciplines and countries, to change the current research culture and to reward researchers for sharing, collaborating, and engaging with society. Okay, next slide. The sixth area for action is to promote innovative approaches for open science at different stages of the scientific process. You need to develop new participatory methods and validation techniques to incorporate and value inputs from the broader public, including through participatory and citizen science. This is, by the way, important if you want in a country to increase the level of innovation. Moving from science to wealth needs innovation, needs entrepreneurs, and you cannot stress the fact that to increase the innovation rate in a country if you don't actually increase the participation of the public in general. Second, you need to support scientists and other societal actors in accumulating and using open data resources in a transdisciplinary mode to maximize scientific, social, economic benefits, and to stimulate the creation of hybrid disciplinary spaces where scientists from different disciplines interact with software developers, coders, creatives, innovators, and engineers, etc. By the way, this open science recommendation, I think it came at the right time with the COVID issue. And I was just talking to some of the colleagues in the room here, and I was saying that COVID is a blessing, because in the Arab region, people woke up and started embracing these digital technologies. And open science would fly if you have the right digital infrastructure in place. Enhance open access to large-scale research infrastructure, such as international infrastructure in physics, astronomy, and space science, as well as, I don't know, I think there's something missing here. But the seventh area, which is as important, is to promote a common understanding of open science and promote diverse paths to open science, establishing regional and international funding mechanisms. Okay, that's a place where, you know what, I usually kind of think, a lot of people think that if you have the money, you can do everything, but that's not the case. Okay, funding is an important element, but there is a lot to be put in place, and then funding would make things work. So you have to have those funding mechanisms, and you know, the statement here is establishing regional and international funding mechanisms for promoting and strengthening open science, and identifying those mechanisms, including partnerships, which can support international, regional, and national efforts. It's just like sustainable development goals. One country cannot do it by itself. Okay, we need collective effort. And by actually moving open science funding mechanism to a regional and international level, you actually get that. Now, supporting the creation and maintenance of effective collaborative networks to exchange best open science practices and lessons learned from the design, development, and implementation of open science policies, initiatives, and practices. Third, promoting cooperation among countries in capacity building for data management and stewardship, and to prevent the exploitation and misuse of open data across borders. And also you need, of course, entrusting UNESCO. UNESCO was actually mandated to look at this open science movement and initiative and get a recommendation out. So as part of that mandate, UNESCO can be entrusted with the mission to coordinate in consultation with stakeholders and member states the development and adoption of a set of open science goals, which will guide and stimulate international cooperation to advance open science for the benefit of humankind and the planetary sustainability. I'm switching the slide. Okay, now this would bring member states a set of key areas for action. Again, you need to develop an enabling policy environment for open science. You need to promote a common understanding of open science and its associated benefits and challenges, as well as diverse paths to open. So a lot of raising awareness and capacity building needs to be put in here. Investing in infrastructure and services which contribute to open science, that's important. Investing in training, education, digital literacy, and capacity building to enable researchers and other stakeholders to participate in open science. Foster a culture of open science and align incentives for open science. Promoting innovative approaches to open science at different stages of the scientific process, and promote international and multi-stakeholder cooperation in the context of open science with a view to reducing digital, technological, and knowledge gaps. That is important. Now, open science in the Arab region. It's necessary to take into account the current state of science in the Arab region and to work on modifying the path for the success of the Open Science Initiative and to exploit it to achieve sustainable development in the region. You know, open science, science does not stand by itself. Open science and science, as our great professor Amr Izzat Salama said, it is the way to development, okay? And that is why people are trying to kind of gear up through open science to actually get somewhere with their level of scientific tempo in the as a cultural change in the society. The current situation in the region is characterized by the existence of a gap in science and research, to say the least, as a major obstacle, not only between the Arab countries, but also between the Arab scientific community and the general public. You know, the Arab scientific community, I think they are disadvantaged in many ways, and maybe open science as a movement can actually tackle that in the best sense possible. There is also the need for technological societies, as there is an absence of coordinated policies between countries or of scientific exchange between Arab universities, as well as the weakness of the societal culture of the importance of science. After COVID, I think this has changed a little bit. People have seen that collaboration have moved the remedies for COVID. New things kicked in. I don't know what your take about the shots we took, but I think people were able to actually collaborate effectively to actually solve the problem, and that was really something that was worthwhile. It must be noted that the interest in the scientific research has two tracks, one of which is for research in basic sciences. And this can be entrusted to be carried out by universities and research centers. But the other track of applied sciences is dependent on the industry sector to do. Now, this is important. You talk about basic sciences and applied sciences. You know, governments and public universities cannot do everything, okay? How can you actually bring private sector from the cold? In the Arab region, we have an issue. Private sector is not really reciprocating in terms of picking up the bucket. So looking at what the United States did a few decades back, when things were getting you know, hefty budgets to do research, they brought in the private sector and said, like, okay, whatever you have issues in terms of applied science, you tackle that. And of course, private sector now, while, you know, a country like the US maybe spends about 1.2 or 1.5% of GDP, the private sector spends about 2% or 3% of GDP on R&D. So they tackle a lot of this applied science, and we can actually do something similar. So therefore, with the absence of the industry sector, there is no presence of applied research, which is of great importance for technological development. And we know that innovation is the main tool for development and linking research to development. Okay, so if we agree that the following outcomes are inevitable when adhering to open science, and here we talk about maintaining and promoting good practices and scientific thoroughness, as well as accelerated discovery by maximizing access to robustly described data, software, including source code and methods underpinning scientific conclusion, maximizing access to scientific knowledge and the reuse and combining of data and software, including source code, and thereby maximizing the common good achieved through public investment in scientific resources and infrastructures, and also maximizing the engagement and participation of all people and cultures in the scientific process, thus fostering the democratization of the scientific process and the increased societal impact of the scientific endeavor for the greater common good. If these are actually the outcomes of open science, can actually that be used in the Arab region to promote open science? Now, this is something that I actually incorporated in Dr. San's keynote, just to highlight one thing. When we were doing consultation meetings about open science and what is it that the science community in the Arab region thinks about open science and how to do that, whether they're doing open science or not, it was a well-structured kind of survey. I want just to highlight one thing, that despite the country representation from the Arab region was 16 out of 19 countries, we count in the Arab region, MENA, which is Middle East and North Africa, 112 responses only from the whole region, despite the fact that a country, for example, like Argentina, was 308. You got 308 responses from one country, and the whole Arab region was only 112. That is something to stop at. How to incentivize the Arab region and its science community to come forward if they're not even willing to give their opinion about their issues? What's happening? You know, maybe in the meeting yesterday, we were saying this. There are a lot of countries that are well off within the Arab region, and they have almost everything in place. But the other half, maybe it's because the status of the researcher, him or herself, in terms of, you know, making ends meet, having a family while doing research, do not fly together. So are we going to look at that? Well, Sustainable Development Goals need to address those. So open science, science, technology, and innovation, and SDGs, they actually go well hand in hand. In order to achieve this, it was necessary for us to, in cooperation with our partners in Egypt and the region, to attempt to draw a roadmap through the Open Science Initiative and assess the needs of the Arab region to achieve the desired progress according to the outcome of the consultative meetings, which were held in the last 2 years. The attendees anonymously agreed on the importance of focusing on many areas to achieve this, including, but not limited to, expanding the regional participation of the science community, raise awareness and network to build a regional culture around open science. Well, that is easily said than done. How are we going to do that? We need strategic thinkers to come up with ideas to actually how to really get the Arab region science community to move. The need of relevant institutions, bodies to adopt those policies, strategies, and legal frameworks for scientific research and innovation that would enhance scientific cooperation at the national and regional levels. You talk about policies while collecting data about the science ecosystem, and which is for science, technology, and innovation, is difficult. So if you cannot collect the data to analyze, to see the status quo, where are the gaps, how are you actually going to put in place policies, strategies, and the right policy instruments to actually get things going? That is also a real challenge. Encouraging and enhancing the concept of participatory science by adopting comprehensive approaches within the framework of the scientific research cycle, including increase the levels of citizen participation, as we said earlier, in scientific processes, data assessment, and designing various scientific projects. These are definitely 3 key areas, but decision makers, strategists need to actually sit and think about a work plan. What work plan can you execute to be able to actually achieve those? Some of the key challenges, I'm not going to stop here because I don't know how am I doing regarding time. Is it good? Okay. So when you want to address the challenges on the recommendation implementation, in UNESCO, we actually formed some groups, working groups on open science, on capacity building, on policies, strategies, financing and incentives, and infrastructure and monitoring frameworks. Under each working group, there are certain okay, when you talk about capacity building, there are certain deliverables that are thought by these working groups. I'm not sure if I want to kind of read through, but I think they're important. Compilation index of existing open science training modules and materials. You want to come up with training materials. You want to come up with a curriculum for open science. We will see that when we talk about the capacity building and the needs. Creation and delivery of new and additional necessary training modules on open science for different open science actors. And we want open science only to be for researchers. Research Week in our universities. Can we do that for secondary schools? and we do that starting at primary. Why not? You need to do things right. If you don't do things right, you do things halfway, you spend a lot of money, but you get only 50% output. That's not efficient, at least for an engineer. Open policies and strategies, global repository of open science policy instruments, development of open science policy guide. These are still work in progress, but if the Arab region can actually get its act together and do this work while the rest of the regions are doing it, then we're saving a lot of time because we can actually use the synergies by working with the other regions. Financing and incentives, proposals of regional and thematic open science funding mechanisms and recommendations for revision of the current research, careers, assessment, and evaluation criteria. That is something that UNESCO is always dwelling on. If you want to do good research, then you need to tackle the status of researchers themselves. You know that people are moving from public to private because they're paid better. No, people are actually moving out of their countries, going to the developed world, and that's called brain drain, because they can make ends meet in their own countries. So you need to revise all this. It's not like, oh yeah, we have an open science policy and you put it in the drawer. That will never work. Just like a lot of other things didn't work. Open infrastructure, of course, you talk about the digital world and the digital development that happened in the last 2 or 3 years. It's good that the Arab region has woken up, but there is a lot of missing infrastructure pieces that we need to have. My question would be, who is going to be brave enough to pick up the bucket? That is important to talk about. And I hope, Dr. Yusuf, I'm putting a lot of bearings on your talk. Don't fail me, okay? And of course, monitoring framework is important. Now, global best practices. You know, things are gloomy in the Arab region? Not necessarily, okay? I want to show a few good examples. And this is, by the way, an addition to the keynote speech. These are, when I knew that I was going to do the talk, I said, let me, give my 2 cents. So global best practices. There is something called the Global Sustainability Coalition for Open Science Services. Actually, that was established in 2017 and is a network of influential organizations committed to helping and secure open access and open science infrastructure well into the future. Okay, this is of course something from the developed world, and you know, there are about 4.8 million pledged just for this project, and it was done like, you know, individual institutions decided that this is something that is important for them, and they just went ahead and did it. Okay, 311 number of institutions that have pledged into that, and there are 8 infrastructure projects funded. This is what is open infrastructure as defined for them, but we are not going to go into that. Who's behind it? Okay, the coalition is comprised of the following with representatives from most continents. Associations of African universities. You know that 3 or 4 years ago, there was an African open science platform that was launched. Okay, where is the Arab region? Why are we sleeping? يعني معلش يعني I'm a little bit critical, not to be critical, but I want to see that we can have some of the things that other people do. FEE, the Association of Research Libraries, Canadian Association of Research Libraries, the Council of Australian University Librarians, and Qatar National Library. Salute you. He's sitting over there. Membership is open to organizations that can represent significant communities of research funding. I want to tell Dr. Professor Amr Izzat Salama, let's join this coalition. Maybe we can, you know, get something our way here. Okay. This is another directory of open access journals. People just gather and they indexed about 17,963 journals. And these are, by the way, quality journals, and they are giving access to their members. This is another one. But what I really want to stop at, this is one for all, even open access books, not just the journals. Which one I like the most? Of course, the European Research Council also has some work. Okay, this is something fantastic. This is invest in open infrastructure. It was an initiative dedicated to improving funding and resourcing of open technologies and systems, supporting research and scholarship. They are saying, we do this by shedding light on challenges, conducting research, and working with decision makers to enact change. The founding premises of this entity is to invest in open infrastructure, and actually the premises where open community owned infrastructure is necessary for research to strive. Let's put this in mind. Okay, and the second one was the way we fund and resource open projects we rely on is insufficient, and working against our aims to build a healthy collaborative ecosystem. So these are the premises, the founding premises of this entity. Our aim is to provide targeted evidence-based guidance to institutions and funders of open infrastructure to help them become wiser about where to invest. You know, even when you talk about infrastructures, you need somebody, 2 minutes? That's more than I need, by the way. You need somebody to tell you what to invest in. So you having the money would not be enough. Now, they said that invest in open infrastructure arose as a concept and coalition from 2018 joint roadmap for open science tools. No, there is a place where they say, okay, between August 2018 and March 2020, IOI existed solely on a volunteer effort led by a 20-person steering committee of leaders. We don't have 20 good people to do this. يعني الinitiative كله for the infrastructures that they need was actually a coalition from 20 people. And they did that between August 2018 and 20 March. In late 2019, the effort secured initial funding. Of course, they went for Schmidt Furniture and Alfred Solon Foundation and was established as a fiscally sponsored project. Okay. And anyways, I just wanted to actually put that out there to let people know that, you know, funding is not a problem. If people know the importance of what they need, okay, then they will do it. احنا عندنا بيقولوا الحاجة أم الاختراع. Why can't we be inventors for the public good? And I think, okay, finally, we wish everyone a successful meeting to come up with a vision that will bring our Arab states to the required accomplishments. Thank you and God bless.
We are just have time for questions and answers. So if there's any comments or questions from the floor or online, we've got time to, so the questions are up here.
Thank you very much for a very interesting, thought-provoking opening today. My name is Hanan Khalifa from Cambridge University, but I'm Egyptian. And I used to work in higher education here before I immigrated. And one of the key things that kept popping in my head is two things. Plagiarism is rife, and people who work in higher education are scared of their thoughts being stolen. I think something that Nazar was talking about. So we have to look at where is an onion, yeah? So peel an onion, what is the root cause, yeah? And ask the 7 questions to reach the root cause. Why is collaboration not happening to the extent that we wanted to have? I mean, there is definitely collaboration, but it's not to the extent that we want to. So I want us to address that root cause. Thank you.
Dr. Nazar, any comments on? When it comes to plagiarism, definitely we have one of the sponsors of the event, Turnitin, which they're, of course, providing the infrastructure on the plagiarism side.
Well, I think in Egypt in particular, I think the issue has been tackled seriously. Maybe yesterday or the day before, I was talking to someone a few years back, about 7 years back. I went into a professor's, without mentioning names, a professor's office, and he or she, so that you don't know, you can't figure the name. He or she was sitting with their PhD student, and the directives was, okay, for this chapter, copy this chapter from the thesis of Dr. X. For this chapter, copy paste from this. And I was like, excuse me, what is happening here? I said, like, oh, this is très normal. And I was really scared because, but things have improved drastically now. I think since you left, things got better. And maybe I want to point a finger at our friend here to actually give his comment. Now, there is a lot to be done to the science community to actually function well, okay? And I can only remember one thing, they says, is it charity? It starts at home? People who are from the UK, what is the saying? Is it? Yeah. It says charity starts at home. So if everyone doesn't like what's happening, they need to change their culture. They need to change themselves. And I think open science as a movement is actually bringing that. Okay, that's an indication that I need to stop. Thank you.
One of our online delegates. So first of all, thank you so much for such an interesting keynote, Dr. Nazar. So one of our online delegates, and forgive me if we're translating on the fly, so if it's not perfect English, do forgive us. Dr. Nadine Kahil is saying, we need to encourage creativity and enhancing research centres and enforcing regulations related to educational honesty in order to develop our communities. How could countries that deal with wars, in addition to dilapidated infrastructure, keep up with that development? Don't you think that in the agenda for 2030, the part related to Article 4 is hard to apply due to these conditions? I think we need to relook the educational policies, curriculums, budgets, etc., and put a map for a new educational map together for 2040 to 2050 to deal with these unique issues that affect the region. Sorry, that was a very long question we were reading out there.
That was a comment that I agree to.
So
it's a comment that yes, all that she. Sorry, I was just saying that was not a question. That was actually a well written comment, and we definitely in the room we agree that those things need to take place. The issue, you know, as experts, you know, again, I'm going to put my 2 cents there. You know, when you invite experts to talk, they always tell you what you need to do. They never tell you how to do it. And this is where the issue is. We need to have our strategic thinkers sit, and every time they know that something needs to be done, they need to tell us how to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nadar. Thank you for a very interesting speech. I'm Rabab Rashwan from Academy of Scientific Research and Technology. Actually, it's 2 questions. One of them based on Dr. Hanan's comment, which is, of course, we have always a connection between open science and copyright. So this is a very vague statement, of course. I myself, I would go for the magic word is regulations or laws or something like rules. Do you agree with me on that? My second question is concerning plagiarism. The plagiarism is not that we created the monster actually, because we are always mixing between plagiarism and similarities. When you talk about plagiarism, you are going to systems. It's not system, it's a concept. So does UNESCO have this part or in open science to avoid? Because I think it's 2 committed points, having a good plagiarism concept for people or to disseminate the information, and to have also something to avoid or to protect the rights or a copyright statement. And UNESCO, of course, is a very eminent institution, maybe the elite institution to do so. Thank you.
I feel like the questions are making my life miserable. Not because of anything, but it's just a reminder of how terrible things are in our neck of the woods, in our region. 2 things about how do you say? Plagiarism. Okay. There is one part that is totally, of course, you can put rules and regulations and everything. And I think that was highlighted in one of my slides, that you need to teach. Oh, that's actually a slide in my next, when it talks about capacity building. You need to teach people how, you know, integrity. Okay. And what is required from them when they're actually collaborating in terms of research, looking at research of others, what they can take and what they cannot. But it's actually a moral thing because you can put as many rules and regulations as you can. But if someone wants to actually break these rules, they do it. Okay. So it's something very simple. If you take a statement from somebody's work, why can't you put inverted commas in them and make the reference? It will not take anything from you. Or do you want to actually claim that it's yours? Now that part, to pretend that it's yours, that is a moral thing. How can you teach people, you know, to do things in a moral way? You put rules, but they're still going to be broken if people want to. You know, to pump researchers to the level that they love research, okay, and they want to do research for the sake of research and to put their effort is very important. And I know in many of our countries, we need to change the culture. Again, does that go with economy and bad economies? Who knows? You know, we're all from the Arab region, and we know, let me just escape out of the zone of knowledge E and talk about Umar ibn al-Khattab. في عام الرمادة, when people did not find food and they were stealing to eat, you know, law was actually put on hold. Okay, so am I seeing something similar? I'm just wanting to give people a good reason to do what they're doing now. Maybe they don't have much time to think in their labs and stuff like that, but who knows, you know? And that's why I say charity starts at home.
One question. One more question from that table.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Professor Amani Said from Helwan University. I just wanted to say that open science consists of open access for journals, open research data, open educational resources, open open review, open citizen, open science for citizens. I think in our literature, we emphasize on or focus on the infrastructure and rules, standards, disciplines, but we don't focus on the culture and what motivates Arab researchers to share their knowledge or to share their research data. I think if we build a platform, they will be encouraged. If we give donations and the grants and research grants, every research grants and open access journals and some editorials ask the authors to upload their research data. For the first time, the Egyptian and Arab researchers shocked. Why I give you my research data? Now it's a custom. They're not shocked. They already uploaded their research data. They share research data on academic social networks, like ResearchGate and academia. I think the culture comes with motivation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment. Do we have time? You have one more question. You've got the microphone.
Otherwise if needed. We have another online question from one of our delegates who's attending from not Cairo. First of all, thank you for such a rich and holistic framing of the opportunities of open science for the MENA region. Could you elaborate on the aspects of multilingualism and how the utilization of Arabic and English as a lingua franca in the respective regions and for science communication can further enhance open science as a practice? Quite a long question there.
Well, it's an excellent question, and that should have been actually right now. I'm thinking maybe in the keynote speech we should have actually alluded to resources in the Arabic language. First of all, the United Nations have not just English and French and Spanish as their main languages. Arabic is one of them. Okay, and usually when there is a recommendation like this UNESCO global recommendation, it is actually translated in many languages, and it's shipped to the different parts of the world in different languages. We have our day for the Arabic language within the United Nations, but with that, again, we go back to resources, to capabilities. You know, you go to Google and you do translation from English to French, or French to even Chinese or Japanese. It works very well. when you do English to Arabic, you get, I think it's improving, but it's garbage. Why is that? Because we're not actually putting also efforts to that. So thank you for the question. It's very important that we actually tackle languages, especially in the Arab region. I have realized from my work that a lot of excellent experts and scientists within our region, their English is weak, but they would do wonders if you let them speak in Arabic. So that is a good hint that we need to support the Arabic language for the Arab region as part. I'm not saying that you don't learn English or French, but we need to have that. And I think one project or two projects came out, to my surprise, of universities in Palestine that they want to improve the translation to Arabic through using digital technologies, and so yes, it's important, and we need to work more. But if you talk about anything in the Arab region, you need to do more about it. So where should we start? We leave that to our decision makers. He's not looking at me.